Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. So I'm trying to come up with really fun videos over here that are kind of different than just talking about the book club or just talking about books that I'm reading and things like that. I do want to make an announcement. I mentioned a couple videos ago that I was trying to figure out what to do with Peter's book club. Not whether or not I was going to continue it. I am definitely going to continue Peter's book club. But whether or not I should like do a Facebook page to it. I didn't really necessarily want to do like a live stream every month, like what I was going to do with it. And so many people commented and said, I would just love for you at the beginning of each month to do a review video. Well, hi, Boo Radley. Do a review video talking about the book that we read for the last month. And then everybody could comment in the comment section below. So that is what I will do going forward. Last month's book, I will be doing a video about probably this upcoming week, like early in the week, like Monday or Tuesday, I'll be doing that video. So I just want to make that clear. Going forward, the first week of every month, like the first 7 days, I will be doing a review video, sharing with you my thoughts over the book from the last month. So many people commented that, and I mean, not so many, it was like hundreds, but I think 4 or 5 people commented that consistently, and I thought that that was really a good idea. I will say that somebody asked, they were like, what's the point of the book club if you're not going to like have a live stream and discuss it and stuff? I mentioned this actually, I think on that video, and I mentioned it before. I modeled Peter's book club very much after like Reese's book club, the Good Morning America book club, other book clubs out there where they literally just pick a book and then everybody reads it. Reese Witherspoon does not do a live stream every month. She doesn't do a video review of it every month. She doesn't talk about it. She just throws up a bunch of stuff and book signings from the author and things like that. And I'm somebody that like tries to read all the books for Reese's book club. So that was kind of why I modeled it after that. I thought, you know, I have a bunch of people that watch my videos consistently. If I pick a book, and people are always asking me, like on my vlog, like, what are you reading right now? And so I thought it would be fun to just pick a book that every month we all read together. It was really no deeper than that. I just want to make that clear. So no, I don't want to do a live stream to it, and I was kind of thinking about like starting a Facebook group. A couple people, I actually have to say I love this comment. A couple people, whenever I talk about like the Facebook or the True Crime Book Club on Facebook or whatever, people are like, well, I don't have Facebook, and I love that in 2024, people don't have social media outside of like just watching YouTube videos. It makes me so happy, and I just want to say congratulations to you. You know, I've been somebody that's taken some time off from social media, and it's so freeing and so clearing. And clearing of the mind and head. And I will say that, you know, if what I did for a living, you know, wasn't, you know, sourced out of finding things online and looking online for all that kind of stuff, I probably wouldn't either. Like Twitter, I literally just post the Halloween countdown and the Christmas countdown and stuff like that. And so anyway, and people ask me all the time, they're like, what's your favorite social media app? And I'm like, Goodreads, because I just love to like see what other people are reading. And that's really why I wanted to do Peter's book club, that we just all read a book together once a month, and you don't have to, you know, I just wanted to pick something that I thought we could, for those of you that want to like read along with me, you can. It was really no deeper than that. So starting like the first 7 days of every month, I will do a video review of the book that we read the previous month. Okay, so just want to make that very, very clear. Yeah, so I'm excited about that, and that's been something that I've said I was going to do for quite some time, and I just really haven't kept up with it. So in May, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to do April's book this coming week, and then I'll probably try to go back and do like March's book, February's book, things like that, and try to like catch up on some of the past books that we've read and do some reviews of that as well. Today I wanted to do a video showing my Linda Berry collection because a couple people were like, I would love to see your Linda Berry collection. I mentioned it when I was talking about graphic novels and stuff like that, and people were like, a couple people were like, I would love to see all the Linda Berry books you have. And so there were a couple books that I was trying to find. I pulled out the collection that I have stored down in my bookshelves, but there's a couple books that I have. She actually wrote a fiction book called Cruddy, and I know I have it because I just cleaned out all of my books and all of my bookshelves, and so I know I saw it, and I just don't know. I have it, okay, so it's so weird how I sorted out my bookshelves. I sorted them out into like classics that my mother loved and that I loved. Those are all together. And then I have like recovery memoirs, recovery books all together in one area. And And then I have like on the top, it's like all of my favorite books of life. And then I have like books I've always wanted to read, books I want to maybe reread, books I've revisited. And then I have like all of my LGBTQIA plus books all like together in a section, because I bought a lot for the summer and I had a lot already. And so I have those all together because I'm wanting to like get more into LGBTQIA plus fiction. And so I have them all sorted out in kind of like a strange way. So I'm like, I don't know where credit, and then I have them kind of like in artsy, edgy books. I have like 3 like little areas of that. I think it's in there, but I pulled 2 of them out and it wasn't in those stacks, so it must be in the 3rd one. So, because I want to read you guys the synopsis to Cruddy and show you guys, because it's such a cool book, and I loved reading that book. And in all honesty, when I read it, like I so identified and related to it from when I was growing up. And so I want to show you guys that book. And there's also like a bigger book collection of her comics that I can't find. But while I was going through all these books, I was like, look, so I don't know if you're like me, but like if I sit in front of my bookshelf, I'm screwed. It's like an hour gone. You know how like people like roll through TikTok for like hours on end? If I sit in front of my bookshelf, like I'm screwed, because I start pulling out books and I'm like, oh, like I started this, but I never finished it years ago, and I think I might want to read that again. And oh, I should reread this book, or oh, I love that book so much. And then I start going through the book and looking for my favorite quotes and stuff like that. And so it's hard for me to sit in front of the bookshelf. It's not a place for me. I love being there, but it's not a place for me to sit in front of, because I just, I love books. I love the smell of books. As a kid going to the library, I just remember always like the smell of books. And so I love to always smell books. So as I was going through it, it was funny because I pulled out this one book and I was like, oh my God, this is so funny that I have like my original copy that I bought. And I bought this like when I was in college. I mean, probably even before I was sober, because this guy that I dated, he was very artsy, very intellectual, very hot. And I can remember we had talked about this book in a class. So for those of you that don't know, my undergraduate degree is in English. And so we had talked about this book in a class, but we didn't read it for a class, I don't think. And no, we didn't read it for a class because I've never read it. And I read all the books that I was supposed to read back in the day for my classes, except for one book. There's only one book I didn't read, and that was Middlemarch by George Eliot. But all the other books I read. And so this book we talked about in a class, and then I remember like I think this guy was like in another English class of mine, and that's how we like met and we started dating. And I remember asking, we dated for a very short period of time, but I remember asking him like what his favorite book is, and he said this book, and he like described the book to me, and then like I remember like I immediately went out and bought the book. Have you ever done that? And I don't know, like for me, it's so funny because like every once in a while like his pictures will pop up like on the Facebook or something like that. I'm like, oh my God, it's like that was like 30 years ago. It's like so strange to me, right? And he doesn't look anything the same as he did then. He's very settled down like most of us are and whatever, But like this book for me that I've actually never finished, I think I've only made it through like a fourth or a third of the way through. This book that I've never actually finished all the way through, I think from time to time, like I thought before that I did finish it, but I don't think I ever have finished it. And I have always wanted to read this book, but whenever I see this book and I see this cover, it's very much to me like I can see myself at that age. And, like, even though I was kind of a mess, it was before I got sober, I can see myself as young and hopeful and optimistic and believing that I was going to, like, do all this great art and write the world's best novel. And I just read all the, I imagine myself, like, sitting in a cafe in France, and I was going to, like, just read all day long and drink, like, espressos or whatever. And then I pulled out this other book. It was right underneath it. I don't know. I think I had them in kind of like this artsy section. And this other book that I pulled out is from one of my favorite authors of life. And it was the very first book of his that I ever read way back in the day. And it was at a point when I read it during the first road trip that I took with my ex. So we got together in 2001, so this would have probably been 2002. I actually should see when this book came out, because it would have been around 2002, maybe 2003 when I read this book, but I think it had just come out. Let me see when it was published. It'll be so funny. It was published in 1997. So the second book for me, it's weird how, like, books, like, symbolize periods of your life. Like, I can remember when my mom, way back in the day, like, she would sit in our library. We had a library in our house, and she would sit with the headphones on, and this was when she was heavy into her drinking, and she would drink and smoke cigarettes, and she would listen to, like, Bob Dylan and Judy Collins and whatever. And, like, later in life, after she got sober, like, I would say, Mom, you never listen to that folk music anymore. And she's like, you know, it kind of, like, reminds me of that era of my life, and it kind of makes me sad. And it's funny how books, are similar in that way. Like, books remind me of certain eras of my life, and this book definitely reminds me of that era of my life. And at that point, I was like 28. I was late 20s. I was like working out every day. I like felt really great, and I can remember this road trip when we took it. We went to Biloxi, Mississippi, and was that? I think that was our first road trip. We went to Biloxi, Mississippi, and to go down there to stay at the casinos and gamble and stuff like that. And I can remember, like, him driving and me, like, sitting there drinking a fountain pop, reading this book, and I loved this book so much. And so I'm sitting there and I have both of these books in my hands, right? And I'm like, it's so funny how both of these books, one I've never finished, I don't think, all the way through. I'll probably read it and be like, oh my God, you finished this like 20 years ago, don't you remember? And the other book that I remember to this day how it ends, and I loved it, and I wanted to reread this. One book I wanted to read all my life, and the other book I wanted to reread all my life. And they're both like, look, they're both like almost exactly the same amount of length. And so I should actually look and see what the page length is on this. It would be funny to see how close they are, because it was like two different books, very similar kind of stories. Okay, this one is 212, and the other one, oh, it's a little bit finer print. It's 259, but they're not like too far off. So the first book is that I was inspired to read by my hot boyfriend when I was like 20 years old, is If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. And if you don't know about this book, I will read you the synopsis. I don't remember the last time that I read the synopsis, but the synopsis that my hot boyfriend told me at the time was that it's about this person that goes, and when you start reading it, like, I'll like glance over the first couple pages, but it's like you have your cup of coffee sitting next to you. It's like it talks to the reader. And it's like you have your cup of coffee sitting next to you, you have your pack of cigarettes. Are you ready to engage in this book and start reading? And then you read the book, and it's about this, like, I think it's about a woman, and she like goes to the bookstore and gets this book, and she starts reading it, and halfway through she realizes that her book is a misprint and that she only has half of the book. So she goes back to the bookstore to get the other half of the book, and she meets the guy that bought the other half of the book. And so he only has the end of the book, and it's how they meet, supposedly, is what this book is about. I don't know. I don't remember it. Another book that I've always wanted to read, I don't know why this just came into my mind, is, and I remember somebody, like, it was either a high school teacher or a college professor, I think it was a college professor telling me about this book and talking about it. I can remember back at that time, it was like the edgy book to read, and it was called, Once Upon a Woodpecker or something like that by Tom Robbins. Do you guys know that the picture of it is like a woodpecker, and he's like on a pack of Camel cigarettes, and the whole thing takes place inside of a pack of Camel cigarettes. Do you guys know about this book? Is that what it's called? Something Woodpecker. But you guys, I have that book downstairs too. That's another book that I've wanted to read. Maybe this summer will be my summer of reading books I've always wanted to read. So here it is. Italy's most brilliant, and this book came out, the other book came out in 1997, but this book came out, I love the title too, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. The book came out in 1979. Italy's most brilliant modern writer shows that the novel, far from being a dead form, is capable of endless mutations. If On a Winter's Night a Traveler turns out to be not one novel, but 10, each with a different plot, style, ambiance, and author, each interrupted at a moment of suspense, together they form a labyrinth of literatures, known and unknown, alive and extinct, through which two readers, a male and a female, pursue both the storylines that intrigue them and one another. With virtuosity and versatility, the author rings the changes of contemporary literature until his two bewildered readers end up in a great double bed to engage in parallel readings. They are the true heroes of the novel, for what would writing be without readers? And I am very, very excited to read this book. So this summer, I'm dedicated to this. And now, my the book that I want to reread this summer, and this is really a good book to read in the summer because it takes place, I mean, some of the chapters are so short. Do you guys see this? It's literally like a paragraph. But it starts taking place in the summer, and it just was such a quick read for me. And that book is Speed Queen by Stuart Onan. Now, Stuart Onan is one of my favorite authors of life, and he is very good friends with Stephen King. His writing is very different than Stephen King, and but I love his books, and I've read almost, like, I think there's like 2 of his books, and I just recently, but maybe there's 3, because there's 2 that go along together. There's 3 of his books. Oh, he just came out with a new book of short stories. I just bought it. I showed it in the haul. So there's 4 of his books that I haven't read, but everything other than that I've read. 2 of them go together. I think they're called Emily Alone, and then there's a one after that. And then there's a book of his from like years, I think it's called The Good Wife. That book, I don't think I've read, and then his newest book. So those are the 4 books, but other than that, and, he has a book called, like, October Night, and each chapter is the title of a horror movie, and it's, like, fantastic book. All of his books are so good. Snow Queen is one of my favorite books of his. Was it Snow Queen? Snow Angel was one of my favorite books of his. But this is probably one of my top 10 favorite books of life, and I haven't read it since 2002 or something like that, so I want to read it again. The Speed Queen is the gripping story of a twisted love triangle's drug-fueled killing spree across the desert plains, told in the voice of Oklahoma death row inmate Marjorie Stanford, who's recounting her experience for a best-selling horror writer researching the murders. And she, like, is selling her rights to the book to Stephen King. Chilling, brutal, and unrelenting, it's an unputdownable online novel in the tradition of James M. Cain, A Voyage into the Dark Soul of the American West. Stuart Onan has won numerous international awards for his writing and was selected by Granta as the best young American novelist. His books include the novels Everyday People, Snow Angels, The Names of the Dead, oh, that was what it was called, The Names of the Dead, the October book, A World Away, A Prayer for the Dying, oh, that was such a great one, and the short story collection In the Walled City. Prayer for the Dying is about a kidnapping, and I read that a couple years ago, as well as the narrative, nonfiction, The Circus Fire, and the anthology, The Vietnam Reader. This is, like, so dated, because he's written so much since then. And he wrote a short story novella with Stephen King, I believe, called The Face in the Crowd, and it is so good. It starts off, if I remember, with her, like, writing to Stephen King, or, like, Dear Stephen King, or something like that. So it's all done, like, told in a cassette tape, and so it sees side A and then side B. Okay, wait. It says, oh, I hope that you don't mind that I wrote this part out. Okay, yeah. Why do I feel like it was to Stephen King? I'm almost positive that it is. That she's, like, selling the rights to her story to Stephen King. It's so good, you guys. It's so good. And I have to tell you what is so funny is that in this book, which is about addiction, trigger warning, she, like, works at this gas station, and she, if I remember correctly, something about a gas station starts with, I think she's working at this gas station, and the reason why she drinks Diet Pepsi instead of Diet Coke is because it has the most caffeine in it, and I can remember at that time, and if you watch my videos, my vlog, I'll say, like, I like Diet Coke in a can, but Diet Pepsi in a fountain, and since that day that I read this book, I've always drank Diet Pepsi from at the fountain pop machine, because she references getting, like, these jumbo Diet Pepsi sodas in this book, and I remember that. So anyway, 2 books that I'm going to read this summer. I have so much reading to do. I'm so excited. 2 books, completely different stories. I'm excited about doing these reviews over here. Thank you guys for watching. I'm having so much fun posting over here again on a regular basis. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.